At the reading of my father's will, my brother grabbed the envelope out of the lawyer's hands and shouted, "We all know who deserves everything." I sat there stunned as everyone nodded and took turns listing why I was too emotional to handle anything. When I opened my envelope, it contained only a sticky note that said, "Better luck next life." A year later, they were begging me to save the family home they had bankrupted. I've been sitting on this for a while. Wasn't sure if anyone would care, but lately, the anger's been creeping back in. Maybe telling it will help. Or at least warn someone else before they trust the wrong people. I'm from a little town outside Knoxville, Tennessee. We aren't fancy people. Big yards, old trucks, everybody goes to the same diner after church. My dad grew up here, so did I. The house was the same one my granddad built after coming back from Korea. 3 bedrooms, white paint that peeled in the summer heat, a front porch with a swing that creaked no matter how much you oiled it. Dad was tough. Real old school. Thought hard work was the answer to everything. Thought crying was something you did alone, with the door closed. I spent most of my life trying to earn his approval, even though part of me knew I never would. I was the youngest. The soft one. Brad was the golden boy. Star football player. Always knew the right thing to say. Carla was the favorite. Pretty, smart, always getting praised. Me? I was just there. When Dad got sick, stage 4 cancer, it was fast. One minute he was mowing the lawn in the heat, the next he was curled up in a hospital bed, coughing blood. Brad and Carla came around at first. Took selfies holding his hand, posted, "Love you, Dad," photos online like it was a damn competition. But when things got ugly, when Dad couldn't get out of bed, when he needed someone to change him, to help him bathe, they disappeared. It was just me. I quit my job. I slept in the chair next to his bed. I learned how to give shots, how to clean bedsores, how to hold a vomit bucket steady without crying. I did it because I loved him. Even if he barely said thank you. When he finally passed, I was the one who found him. I still remember how cold his hand felt when I tried to shake him awake. The will reading was held a few weeks later. Mr. Harlan, our family lawyer, was a gray old man with shaky hands. I trusted him because he used to slip me butterscotch candies during long meetings when I was little. The office was packed. Brad was wearing a new suit, hair slicked back. Carla had a fresh tan and a stack of shopping bags in her car. I sat in the corner, feeling like a ghost. Mr. Harlan opened the folder, cleared his throat. Before he could even finish reading the first line, Brad snatched an envelope from him like a goddamn seagull stealing food. "We all know who deserves everything," he shouted. People laughed. Aunt May clapped. Even Carla smiled wide like it was a joke everyone was in on but me. "She's too emotional," Aunt May said, pointing at me without shame. "She would just waste it," Brad said. "No sense giving her anything but a goodbye wave." Carla crossed her legs, smirking. "She can't handle responsibility. Remember how she cried when she lost her first job? She'd let it all fall apart." I felt my face go red. But I stayed quiet. Because I still thought stupidly that Dad had seen me. That Dad had left me something. When they finally handed me my envelope, my fingers barely worked. It was light. Too light. I slid my finger under the seal and pulled out a single sticky note. Yellow. Slightly crumpled. Dad's messy handwriting. It said, "Better luck next life." I stared at it for a long time. I half expected someone to shout, "Gotcha," or for Mr. Harlan to hand me the real one. But no. That was it. The room buzzed with laughter and fake sympathy. Somebody clapped Brad on the back like he'd won a damn marathon. Carla whispered something to Aunt May and they both burst into giggles. I sat there until the room cleared out. Mr. Harlan patted my shoulder on the way out but didn't say anything. Maybe he felt bad. Maybe he didn't. I didn't care anymore. After that, I disappeared. I moved into a dingy one-bedroom near the highway. Took a job at a 24-hour diner, flipping pancakes for truckers and night owls. I lived cheap. Ate cheap. Saved every penny I could. Sometimes I drove past the old house just to torture myself. Brad had torn down the porch swing. Carla had ripped out Mom's rose bushes and put in some ugly stone fountain. I heard rumors. Brad was using the place for weddings, charging couples stupid amounts to take pictures under authentic rustic arches. Carla opened some weird pet spa out back, massages for dogs, cucumber water for cats. It made me sick. But what could I do? I was too emotional, right? Then one night almost a year later my phone rang. Brad's name popped up. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, Carla texted. "Hey. Can we talk? It's important." I almost blocked her right then. But curiosity won. We met at the diner. They showed up looking rough. Brad had bags under his eyes. Carla looked like she hadn't slept in days. Long story short, they were broke. The pet spa bombed. The wedding business dried up. The house was falling apart, the roof leaked, the plumbing backed up, termites in the walls. On top of that, they'd missed property taxes 2 years in a row. The county was getting ready to seize it. They needed money. Fast. And because the deed still listed me as a co-owner, something Dad never updated officially, they couldn't sell without my permission. Brad tried to play it cool. Offered me $5,000 to sign away my share. Carla tried tears, saying how sorry they were for everything. I let them talk. I nodded along. I even smiled a little. When they finished, I stood up, tossed a couple dollars on the table for my coffee, and said, "No deal." Brad's face went red. Carla started bawling right there in the booth. I walked out without another word. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. Thought they'd crawl off and figure out their own mess. But no. A week later, I got served. Brad and Carla filed a lawsuit against me. They claimed I was blocking the sale of essential family property out of spite and causing emotional distress. They were trying to force the court to make me sell my share. I almost laughed when I read it. Almost. Instead, I cried for a good hour. Then I got angry. Real angry. I spent every spare minute after work at the public library, learning everything I could about property laws in Tennessee. I talked to a lawyer, a young guy fresh out of law school, who agreed to help me for cheap because, in his words, he hated greedy people. He looked over everything and just shook his head. "They don't have a case," he said. "But they're betting you'll get scared and give in." He was right. Brad and Carla didn't think I had the guts to fight them. They thought I was still the scared little sister they could push around. They didn't realize something important: I had nothing left to lose. And people with nothing to lose are dangerous. Court day came. Brad and Carla rolled in with a fancy lawyer wearing a $1,000 watch and a smirk you could see from across the room. I sat there in my thrift store dress and worn-out shoes, heart hammering so hard I thought the judge could hear it. Their lawyer spun a whole sob story about how families should stick together and how some people, he pointed right at me, were using legal technicalities to hurt the ones who loved them. Brad fake cried. Carla clutched a tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Then it was my turn. I didn't have much. No fancy words. No crocodile tears. I just told the truth. How they laughed at me. How they humiliated me. How they left me with nothing but a sticky note while they spent every dime Dad ever saved. How they only came crawling back when they were broke and scared. The courtroom was dead silent when I finished. Even the judge looked like he wanted to punch Brad in the face. It took about 5 minutes for him to dismiss their case. 5 minutes to wipe those smug looks right off their faces. Brad stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Carla just sat there, staring at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. After that, things got worse for them. Way worse. The county moved forward with foreclosure. They tried to sell off furniture, antiques, even Dad's old war medals to scrape together money. Nothing worked. They were drowning in debt, and nobody wanted to throw them a life raft. Meanwhile, I was still saving. Still living small. And watching. Always watching. I found out about the foreclosure auction before they did. The county posted the notice online. The house and land would be auctioned off in 3 months if back taxes weren't paid in full. I circled the date in red on my calendar. Waited. Saved. Planned. About a month before the auction, Brad showed up at my apartment. Uninvited. Banging on the door like he was the cops. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got me again. It always did. He looked rough. Dirty jeans, grease-stained shirt, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. "You need to help us," he said. Not asked. Demanded. I crossed my arms. Why would I do that? His face twisted like he was chewing on something sour. Then he pulled out an envelope and shoved it at me. Inside were copies of some papers, old ones. Letters Dad had written to Mr. Harlan before he died. In one of them, Dad asked for the will to be updated. Specifically, he said he wanted me to have the house. He even wrote, "The others are too selfish. They'll tear the place apart." Mr. Harlan had never filed the update. Brad must have gotten his hands on the letters somehow. And now he was using them against me. "If you don't help us," Brad said, "we'll tell everyone. Tell them you stole the house. That you rigged the will. That Dad wanted us to have it." He smiled when he said it. Like he had already won. I wasn't scared though. Not anymore. Something inside me had snapped the day they handed me that sticky note. I took the envelope. Flipped through the papers real slow. Looked Brad dead in the eye. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell whoever you want." His mouth fell open. He didn't expect that. He thought I was still the scared little girl crying behind the barn after he pushed me into the mud. I wasn't her anymore. I was the woman who stayed when everyone else ran. The woman who held my father's hand when he took his last breath. The woman who survived their betrayal. Brad left cussing and slamming his fist against my door. I locked it behind him and smiled for the first time in months. A week before the auction, Carla tried one last time. She found me at work. Walked into the diner, wearing a cheap dress and fake tears. She ordered coffee she didn't even drink. Sat there twirling the spoon around like she was waiting for a miracle. When I brought her the check, she grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I miss you. We were stupid. Please, don't let them take our home." For a second, I almost felt it. That old pull. That hope that maybe, just maybe, family could be fixed. Then I remembered the sticky note. The laughter. The way they listed all my flaws like they were reading from a grocery list. I pulled my hand back. And I said the words I'd been waiting to say for a long, long time: "That's not my home anymore." Carla crumpled right there in the booth. Started sobbing loud enough that the few truckers eating breakfast turned to look. I didn't care. I had pancakes to flip. The day of the auction, it was pouring rain. Fitting, I thought. The county office was packed: old farmers, land speculators, even some random rich guy from the city who thought he could snatch up a quaint countryside getaway for cheap. Brad and Carla were there too. Soaked and miserable. Clinging to each other like kids lost at the mall. When the auctioneer called out the first bid, I raised my hand. People turned to stare. Brad's face turned ghost white. Carla looked like she was about to faint. A few others threw out bids, but I kept raising my hand. Calm. Steady. Every time someone tried to outbid me, I countered. Brad tried to jump in once, but he didn't even have the starting amount. The auctioneer barely glanced at him before ignoring him completely. In less than 10 minutes, it was over. I won. Fair and square. I walked out of that courthouse with the title in my hand. The rain was still coming down so hard it felt like the sky was trying to wash the whole town away. Brad and Carla chased me to the parking lot. They were screaming, crying, slipping in puddles. "You can't do this," Brad yelled, his voice cracking. "This was supposed to be ours." Carla sobbed, mascara running down her face like black rivers. I stopped. Turned real slow. And I said, "You already did this. A year ago. When you laughed at me. When you told me I didn't deserve anything." I pulled the sticky note out of my pocket. Held it up so they could both see it through the rain. The same sticky note they gave me, framed now, tucked carefully inside a plastic sleeve. "Better luck next life," I said. Then I got in my car and drove off, leaving them standing there in the mud, screaming at a world that didn't care anymore. The house was a wreck when I got it. Roof leaking. Mold in the walls. Broken windows. It was almost more than I could handle. Almost. I spent the next year fixing it up. I learned how to patch drywall, how to replace pipes, how to sand floors. I worked 2 jobs, lived off instant noodles, and poured every extra dollar into saving what was left. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was mine. Mine in a way it never could have been if I'd just rolled over and given in. As for Brad and Carla, Brad lost everything. His wife left him. Took the kids and moved 3 states away. Last I heard, he was living in a tiny apartment above a pawn shop, working night shifts at a gas station. Carla tried to start another business, dog grooming, out of her car. She lasted about 6 months before the bank took what little she had left. She's living with some guy twice her age now, working part-time at a grocery store. Sometimes I see her when I'm buying paint or lumber. She looks at me like she's seen a ghost. I just nod and keep walking. No hate. No words. Just silence. The kind of silence that says everything. I made mistakes too, though. For too long, I let them walk all over me. For too long, I thought being family meant you had to take whatever they dished out. I learned the hard way that blood doesn't mean loyalty. It doesn't mean love. Sometimes, family is just the first group of people who know exactly how to hurt you the worst. But that's all right. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. Because every time I walk through the front door, every time I smell fresh cut wood and see the light coming through the new windows I installed with my own 2 hands, I remember, they laughed. They stole. They broke me. And I still won.